Hey guys, welcome to the RAMZPAUL show. It is, what is today? It's March 6th, Thursday, March 6th. I forgot the date. Welcome and thank you for being here. It's been a busy week. I've been doing a lot of content and I guess it kind of blurs together after a while, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. And no, it's not snowing in Arkansas. I just decided I have a green screen now, so I'm putting up photos of my backyard. And that literally is my backyard. I don't own all that property. I don't own that mountain over there. My neighbor used to own that mountain. He sold it, but a rancher. So this is kind of where I live. And yeah, it looks better, I think, than the purple wall I had. So we'll try that. Thank you for being here. It's been a busy week with the State of the Union address. Last night, I had, I think, a really great discussion with Z-Man. Seems like every week it gets better. We're still figuring out the format, but I think we're kind of, the first time we did it, it was about current events. But then it was like, well, I do that every day. Monday through Friday, I'm discussing current events with you. So, why do that again in the evening? So we decided to focus on topics. And a week ago, we talked about Nixon, which was an interesting subject. And last night, we talked about communism. You don't hear much more anymore about communism, which is amazing because when Z-Man and I were both young, that was the big topic, fighting communism. I would argue communism still exists. It's been rebranded. And it's not so much a class warfare anymore. It's been rebranded by racial grievances and so forth. But you get some of the same concepts like equity. That's a communist concept. Versus equality. Equality means everyone gets the same chance. Equity means you pull down people to try to level everything out. And that's what like the Democrats and Kamala Harris prattle on about. So, yeah, I thought that was a really great discussion. And he suggested before we had the show last night that, next week we should kind of talk about Reagan. And there were some pluses and minuses with Reagan. But Reagan kind of defined the modern conservative movement, I would say, or you could say it goes back to William F. Buckley Jr. and other people. But at least in politics, he still resonates with us. So I think that's going to be a good discussion. And there's a lot of things I liked about Reagan, a lot of things I didn't like. I lived through it. And back then he was also Hitler. Everyone's been Hitler. So Reagan was Hitler too. Back then, the left, they were against war and nuclear bombs. Now it's inverted. Now all the Europeans on the left, they want war, they want nuclear warfare. It's just crazy. But at the time, Reagan stood up to the Soviets and the left was mad about it. Now the left wants us to get into war with Russia. I don't get it, but that's where we are. I think everything's been flip-flop. Maybe we're the bad guys now. There's no maybe. Europe is, at least the governments of Europe are the bad guys. They are very evil, what they're doing to their people. They're trying to replace their people. If you look what is happening in Ireland, it's sad. It's basically they're attempting a genocide of the Irish people. And this is deliberate and it's evil. And if you complain about it in Europe, you go to jail. It's evil governments over there. We should not support them. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And so anyway, welcome to the RAMZPAUL show. I do the show every Monday through Friday. Monday through Thursday, I do it during the day, kind of lunch hour. This is old Rush Limbaugh's time slot at noon Eastern or 11 Central. And I enjoy doing it this time. And then some people, though, they like to watch it live in the evening when they get off work. So every Friday night at 8 p.m., I do the RAMZPAUL show. It's kind of a good way to end the week. And during the week, on Wednesdays, I have my show with Z-Man, and we call it the Wednesday Wrap-Up. Maybe I'll change the name of that. I don't know. And then on Tuesdays, usually, we have our roundtable for the people that subscribe to me on Substack. And if you're not a Substack, there's no reason. There's two options. You can subscribe for free, or you can be a paying member. If you're a paying member, you get access to our weekly roundtable. Plus, I do exclusive videos just for our members. That's a good way to support me. I do appreciate it. But there's no reason not to. In fact, Monday through Thursday, I put out an article every day for free. Check it out today. I talk about France and their threat of nuclear war. And Tuesdays, we have our roundtable. But this Tuesday, because we had President Trump's address to Congress, the State of the Union, I had to cancel that, but I'm going to have that tonight. So if you're a roundtable member, tonight at 7 p.m., we will have our roundtable. And if you want to be part of it, just join the Substack, and you'll get the link, and we're good to go. Substack is my tool I use. I previously used Patreon, then Gumroad and Group App, and now it's just Substack. It's a free speech platform. It's very stable. The technology's good. I'm very happy with it. So just go to Substack, and that would be great. And then on the Sunday nights, we've been quite a bit. We do Night Owls. That's the show I do with Sasha. A little bit different show. It's more about culture and stuff. So it makes for a busy week. Busy week, but I like that, and it's a lot of fun. So tonight is a round table, just so you guys know, at 7 p.m. After the show, I will post it, and you'll see it in your Substack. You should get a link to it, and we'll be good to go on that. And if you like the show, it's like a virtual coffee setting. Like you pay for a cup of coffee. If you just throw in for the price of a cup of coffee, it really helps me. There's YouTube has Super Chats. Rumble has rants. There's a Powerchats here, and Stream Elements has a feature too. And I do appreciate it. I do not get USAID money, so I do appreciate that. Being independent, telling it like it is. So thank you. I think that's all kind of the wind up here. Let's just kind of go through the stuff that is happening. I wrote about this on my Substack today. Let me just show you guys here. But this is actually kind of shocking. Macron, he's the president of France. He's married to a woman. It's not a guy, it's a woman. I think it was his teacher when he was in school. It's a very strange situation because she's a lot older than him, and usually the guy's older. And I always got the attention that Macron kind of like guys a little more. He seems to beam up like someone else I know in our sphere that gets excited about guys, not so much women. Women, oh, gross. Not saying names, but Macron seems to be in that category. It's almost like his wife's a beard. But anyway, he's the president of France, and he's got this thing against Russia. And France isn't really near Russia. You got to go through a lot of countries before you get to France. But he made these points in a televised address, and some of this stuff was really quite shocking. He made the old trope that unless we defeat Russia in Ukraine, Russia, just like Mustache Man, will try to take over the world or something, which is ridiculous. Putin said he has no interest in attacking NATO, and I believe him. That would be World War III. I don't think Putin wants that. Ukraine is a different situation. It used to be part of the Soviet Union. They have a lot of ethnic Russians there. My point is, and however you come down on that debate, who controls eastern Ukraine, that's really what the debate is. It's not even all of Ukraine. I don't think Russia even wants all of Ukraine. It's just the eastern part, eastern provinces. But however you come down on that debate, and that shouldn't really be our concern as Americans, but it's not France. It's not like you can say that, because Putin invaded eastern Ukraine after the coup we did in 2014, somehow this means he's going to invade France. I think that's ridiculous, but that's a neocon talking point that these people like to do. It's sort of like they did with COVID, or they do with climate change. The governments try to instill fear into you so that you will go along with their plans. In this case, a war, because the obvious thing is, if you're worried about it, once France, they should just build up their troops and say, we're worried, so we're building up our troops and we're going to really defend the French border. And watch out, Russia, we have nuclear weapons and we will use them to defend our homeland of France. That'd be a reasonable position. I would support such a position. I would say it's about time that Europe starts building up their armies again. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying that unless we defeat Russia and Ukraine, Russia's just going to then attack France. But you can't make that assumption. That's a logical error. I don't like this whole idea of preemptive war. It's immoral. And we can't do that in our personal lives. For example, I was just talking about the guy that used to own the mountain behind me. He lives next door. He's in his 80s. I can't say that, I can't go over and murder him, shoot him dead and his wife dead. And then the police come, the sheriff, and my response is, well, it was preemptive. I was scared because he was having a dispute with one of his cousins. And I didn't know, I was scared that if that escalated, he may come after me. So I went over there and just killed him as preemptive. That's just immoral. And that's what these neocons and all these people are trying to do to justify escalating the war. And he spoke out about the ceasefire in Ukraine, and they're going to meet again. And he talked, the big thing though is the scary part. And again, this would have flipped people out in the 1970s and 80s. There would have been mass protests on the streets. And Hollywood would be making movies, and actors and actresses would be bawling and crying. But Macron basically said he wants to have a nuclear umbrella for all of Europe. And this is a big change because that used to just be for NATO, where NATO would use nuclear weapons to defend each other, but not other countries. But now Macron is trying to, or at least is implying, that if before Ukraine is defeated, he's willing to use nuclear weapons against Russia, which would spark a nuclear war, kill millions of people. It'd be horrific. But this is how deranged these people are to prop up this little dictator in Ukraine. And it makes you wonder what the hell is really going on here. Why do they care that much about this? Because I don't think Macron is that stupid. He knows Russia's not going to take over Germany or France. They have no desire for that. Why are they so insistent that Russia not get back their land that they had originally in Ukraine? And I think it goes deeper. I think it goes to their whole liberal democracy, although it's not really liberal. It's not a democracy anymore. But this whole woke system that they're setting up, they had this view. I've always said this. They had this really one world government view that they would control everything. They would eliminate racism. The way they would eliminate racism is by eliminating white people, making sure there's no white homelands, trying to breed white people out of existence, eliminating Christianity, pushing homosexuality and all sorts of weird transgenderism and all that. And this was their view worldwide. It was a religious view. They don't believe in God, but this is their new religion. And they saw as a barrier a couple of countries, Russia and China. And Russia was the first one. I mean, because they don't like Russia and they don't like Hungary, because Hungary's just banned gay pride parades. They don't allow that in Russia. You're not allowed to sexually mutilate children in Hungary or Russia. And they don't like that because I think it's almost a demonic spirit that the West has. And it pains me to say that. It's flip-flop from when I was young. The evil empire used to be the Soviet Union. They were the ones that persecuted Christians. They were the ones that censored speech. If you said something that the government didn't like, they would call you that, this counter-revolutionary speech, and they would send you to Siberia. Well, now it's the West. If you say something they don't like, they call it hate speech. They don't call it counter-revolutionary. Same thing, though. It's just whatever speech that the government doesn't like, and they will throw you in prison, equivalent to Siberia. That happened in England. Someone put up a sign that said it's okay to be white. How could that be offensive? You said that about any other race. There's no one to raise an eyebrow. But their idea is like, if you just say that we as white people have the right to live, they're like, no, you don't have a right to live. That's hateful. You need to be destroyed. I'm saying it's okay to be white is saying that you people have a right to exist. And our whole plan is to eradicate you. It really is. And for you to say otherwise, that's hate, and we're going to throw you in prison. So I don't know how we can defend these Western countries when their number one goal is to replace the native people of these countries, the English people, the French, the Germans, with outsiders, try to eliminate them. And if you protest, they're going to throw you in prison for so-called hate speech. They're not the good guys anymore. But that was that whole system that they had really planned. It's a very evil antichrist system. And then they ran into Russia that was a barrier to that. And again, I'm not saying Russia's perfect or anything like that, but again, Russia, they don't hate their own people. I don't think the Russian government hates Russian citizens. Whereas the British government, they literally hate the white British. They want to eliminate them. The Irish government hates the Irish. The German government wants to replace and destroy Germans. That's their position. And the idea that a country actually cares about their citizens, they find very offensive. They call that, ironically, Nazism, which, to be fair, Hitler cared about the German people. So there's some truth to that. But the idea that you should care about your own people, they consider that horrific, assuming the people are white. And that's part of the reason they hate Trump so much, why they hate the phrase America First, because Trump is for the American people, and they consider that objectionable. So they had this whole plan in their head of how they envision the future, and they saw Russia as being a barrier to that. So the whole idea, and this has been a long planning, it goes back way, you could say before the Second World War, but in Obama's administration, the neocons like Victoria Nuland, as part of the plan to destroy Russia, because they saw Russia as a barrier to this, they worked with USAID funding, funded groups, and they did a coup in Ukraine and threw out the democratically elected president that was friendly with Russia. They didn't want a president of Ukraine that was friendly with Russia. So they had a coup and they replaced him with one of our puppets. It's not, we have it on hot mic. Victoria Nuland was bragging about this. So it's not even a question. It did happen. And then that led to Zelensky, and then the Ukrainians, they started the persecution of the Russian people in Ukraine, Russian ethnicity, try to ban the language, arrest Orthodox priests that were Russian, and just engage in straight out murder of some Russians. And like in Odessa, they set a bunch of people on fire, burned them alive. Really gross stuff. And it sparked a civil war in eastern Ukraine, the Donbass region, which again is heavily Russian ethnicity. Because again, your nation is not the same as the country. The people that live in eastern Ukraine, their nation is Russia. That's their blood. That's their nationality. They may live in the country of Ukraine, but there's a difference. That's like when you see that woman from Somalia, I forget her name, that married her brother, but she doesn't really identify as an American. She may be an American citizen, but she's Somali. And we're seeing this. This is how nationality works. So it sparked a civil war. And again, the idea was when the war started, when Russia invaded, that sanctions would cause Russia to collapse. And then we'd break up Russia. BlackRock would go in. We would push, the LGBTQ queer theory on the little kids in Russia and teach them that, they're actually gay or they're trans. And this was the idea. Then to try to get rid of Christianity. This was the plan, but it didn't work. For the past 3 years, Russia didn't fall. And it's really interesting. It doesn't say it here, but in the Macron speech, he said that, well, another reason we got to take Russia seriously, they're stronger than ever. They have more men than ever in their military. And he went on to list it, which is true. But you would think that the people of Europe would say, hey, wait a minute. for the last 3 years, you've been telling us Ukraine has been winning glorious victory after glorious victory. The Russians are in disarray. Putin has cancer. He's about to be overthrown. They don't have any men left. They don't even have weapons. They're having to use shovels. That was actually an article the BBC did a couple of years ago. Russians didn't have rifles. They just had to fight with shovels. They're just primitive savages. They call them orcs. They're just dumb. They just use human wave techniques, and they're being slaughtered, and they're about to collapse. And then all of a sudden, now they're saying, well, actually, no, they're stronger than ever, and they're winning. It's like, well, what happened here, right? Well, what happened is the European leaders and the propaganda, a lot of it funded by your tax dollars through USAID, was running propaganda, not against just the European people, but the American people. A lot of them, your tax dollars went for people to post on X or Twitter to tell you lies, the ghost of Kiev and all this sort of stuff. That was all bullshit. And the people that have been really following the war, if you've been following the Ramsey Paul channel, I haven't covered it every day, but you know Russia has been winning. They've been consistently winning. They have a lot more factories, manpower. It's just a fact. And they are winning today. And it's been a bloody war, trench warfare, but Ukraine's not winning. There's no path for Ukraine to win. They just don't have enough men. So the only way... So it was a quandary. So for these people like Macron, their whole vision of this global homo world government is starting to crumble. And they see like Donald Trump being elected. They see AfD coming in second place in Germany. They see the nationalists in France. They see a change that is frightening them. And their whole vision of the Star Trek universe is starting to crumble before them. And so they're trying to lash out and desperately try to hold on as best they can to keep this going. It's really sad and pathetic, but it sounds like Macron is trying to say he's willing to institute a nuclear holocaust before he's going to allow a situation where there's not gay pride parades in Moscow. That's really what it comes down to. And they said if... I believe that the United States will be with us, but we have to be prepared for the fact that it will not happen. I hope we're not part of it. I don't think that will be a part of it. And it would be a disaster for us to be any way involved with this. So hopefully that will not happen. And let's see here. Just... let's see here. Oh, I got a I think this is a super chat. Is it a super chat? No, it's just a tip on Stream Elements. Thank you. This is Chrisers. Thank you. The odds of Macron's wife being an actual biological woman are the same as very low, is basically what he's saying there. You know, I don't know. I saw pictures of her. Oh, here it is right here. Thank you. Chrisers and... The odds of Macron's wife being an actual biological woman are the same as the U.S. landing on the moon and calling Nixon on the green landline phone over 50 years ago. Well, probably both are true. We did land on the moon, and I've seen pictures of Macron's wife, and she was actually quite pretty when she was young. No, I don't. I think she is a woman, and we did land on the moon. I think the whole anti-moon thing was really trying to... disparage the accomplishments of NASA back then that was majority white men. It really just showed how primitive the rest of the world was. And I think there's been a psyop to lie about that. And then it's even gone more extreme where they're trying to push the flat earth thing and everything else. So, but thank you for the support. But yeah, I do think we landed on the moon. And she's probably a woman. I mean, she's just an old woman. She's not very attractive, but yeah. But thank you for that. All right. And so then we have our little goblin dictator. So let's watch him. This guy, he changes his mind more than a hysterical woman. I think a teenage girl is more stable than Zelensky. So here he is. Let's listen to him.
Нам відомо, що росіяни не змінили своїх позицій та вимог щодо України. Вони будуть вимагати скорочення нашої армії будуть хотіти юридичну відмову від наших територій, також суттєвої політичної деформації України з послабленням української конституції. І скажу, що насправді, поки ми всі в Україні будемо стояти разом і міцно, поки ми тут, ні в кого це не вийде. Мир буде достойним. Слава Україні!
So Zelensky now, he's changed his mind again. He once he got kicked out of, and basically in this video he says he's not going to negotiate with Russia. There's no compromise. And Trump said that in any negotiation you have to have some compromise. You're losing and you don't have the cards, and you're going to lose it all unless we have a deal. And it's hard to say what Zelensky's position's been, because it changes by the hour, literally by the hour. And just yesterday, before the State of the Union address, he kind of said he was pleaded to President Trump, like, he didn't say I'm sorry, but he said, you misunderstood. We got to patch things up. Yeah, I'm willing to sign the mineral deal, and I'm willing to negotiate. But now he's come out and less than 24 hours later and said, no, fuck you. I'm not going to negotiate. And he does this all the time. He's not a reliable person. He by the hour, he changes his mind. So there's no way you could even negotiate with a guy like this. There's just no way. This guy's too unreliable. And I think why he came out this way is because of Macron, and Macron implying that he will use nuclear weapons to keep this little dictator in power. That emboldens Zelensky to basically change his mind again and said he's not going to work for peace. So at this point, the United States has reportedly cut him off all military aid, and we're not even providing intelligence information to Ukraine. And we told our allies, meaning like Britain, any intelligence data that we share with Britain, they're not to share with Ukraine. Now, Britain already, because they did a interview in the Financial Times, I think some British publication, and they said they're not going to obey our order, and they're just going to give Zelensky the information we provide Britain. It's part of the Five Eyes intelligence service we have with countries where we share intelligence information. But most intelligence information comes from the United States, not from them. So I say share, but it's mostly the United States giving it and sharing it with them. And so they're being little bastards and basically saying, F you, I know you don't want us to share it with Ukraine, but we're going to do it anyway. We should just leave the Five Eyes in and not give Britain any intelligence information if they're going to behave that way. And this does hurt Ukraine, because even if Britain gives them the information, it's going to be slower, and Ukraine won't have real-time intelligence information to plot their attacks on movable Russian targets, right? Because we get satellite data and we could tell them instantly, okay, they have some rocket launchers at this location, at this GPS coordinates, and we could give the information right away to the Ukrainians so they can take off some drones to attack it. But if we don't provide that information, Ukraine won't know where the Russian troops are. It's going to introduce more of a fog of war. That's the way warfare used to be, but now because of satellites everywhere, you can see where everyone is. So this is a big deal. But I think Zelensky feels emboldened because of this. And reportedly what is happening is the United States is trying to get Ukraine removed and get an opposition leader in, and hopefully there'll be a coup, another coup in Ukraine, and we'll get someone better that's willing to work for peace. I think that's the plan. And there's a lot of crazy stuff. Now they're talking about Germany getting the atomic bomb now. And so Europe is getting really desperate, and they're trying to expand nuclear weapons. And It is really interesting because Germany, they used to be so anti-nuke, and obviously because of Mustache Man, the Germans must never have the bomb. And now that's going all out the window. And all their climate change, and we got to shut down industry because of global warming, that's all being forgotten now too. It was all a hoax in the first place, but right, because supposedly if we don't solve the climate change, we're all going to be dead in 5 years from the Earth is going to boil. Well, they knew that was all bullshit. And so they're trying to pivot from that. Let's see here. Elon Musk talked about this a little bit. Let me just show you that. I thought Elon Musk brought up some good points here. They want the forever war. How many more parents with no sons? How many more children with no fathers? By their logic, it never ends. And here's this lady.
I don't think we should panic, but I think we are in a hurry. And I think we have been in a hurry for 3 years, but now we really have to scale up and to speed up because Russia and Putin is not only threatening Ukraine, but all of us.
But that's not true. There's no instance. I haven't seen, she says this, that Russia is threatening all of us, but I've never seen any evidence of this. In fact, Putin has always said, no, I have no desire to attack NATO. I'm not going to attack NATO. And I've seen no evidence of this whatsoever. This is just a neocon talking point they keep repeating. But keep repeating a lie doesn't make it true.
And we have to be able to defend ourselves. My idea about Ukraine is the same as it has been now for 3 years, that they have to win this war. And
well, how do they win the war? What do they mean by winning the war? I think they mean like kicking all the Russians out. But how are they going to do that with Ukraine? Ukraine's running out of men. And Western Europe, they don't have any manufacturing capability because they shut down most of that because of the climate change. They're deindustrializing. They're a poor continent now because of their policies. They don't have the same human capital because they're trying to replace their people with immigrants with lower IQs. The people, but based on all the surveys in Western Europe, it's like less than 20% of the Europeans are willing to even fight for their governments. I don't blame them. Why should they? Their governments hate them. So I don't know what the hell she's talking about. In the United States, Donald Trump said, we're done with this. We're not going to get into World War III. And all of Europe's so-called peace plans are not really peace plans. They're just a way to try to set up a tripwire so that we, the United States, have to go in and fight for them. That's the whole Starmer-Macron plan of sending so-called peacekeeping troops in Ukraine with what they call the U.S. security guarantee or something like that. And what they mean by that is they'll send in their weak, useless troops, and when their weak, useless troops are get kicked in the ass, they're going to cry to the United States that we need to send in our planes and our troops. I think everyone understands that by now. We understand that little ploy they're doing. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, they're all aware, and they all said no many, many times. They keep submitting the same plan, and we keep saying, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
if we allow Russia to win the war, I'm sorry to say it directly to all of you, he will continue, and they will continue.
Again, this is where do they get this idea? If Russia takes the Donbass region, that was the whole goal here. Why are they going to invade Germany next? I just don't see this. This is just bizarre.
And maybe we will even give them a better situation than today, because if we end this war now with some kind of a frozen conflict, a ceasefire, it will give Russia the possibility to return to Russia, to mobilize more funds, people, and maybe to attack another country in Europe.
Yeah, you can't engage in war and violence based on maybes. It's just immoral. Again, like I do not have the right to go to my neighbor today and shoot him dead because maybe he would attack me tomorrow. I have no evidence that he would attack me. We're real friendly. I've seen no evidence whatsoever he would do so. But hey, I need to be safe. Just to be safe, I'm going to take my gun out and kill him and his wife just to be safe. That's the same argument. That's immoral. And this is bullshit. And if Russia should attack a NATO nation, then Article 5 comes into play. And I guarantee you, Donald Trump will be on to, yeah, that's World War III. We would defend Germany, France, or England. I'm questioning if we should, but we would. But the situation in Ukraine's not NATO. It's a complex situation. We have no business in it. And it'd be like, for example, to saying if we don't have an agreement in Vietnam. In fact, it's very similar. In the Vietnam War, one of the arguments about ending the war was, well, if we get out of Vietnam, the communists are not only going to take Vietnam, they're going to take Thailand, and then they're going to take Burma, then they're going to take Australia, and then they're going to take California. Well, they have taken California, but you get my idea. But that never happened. It was called the domino theory. It just never happened. It was an internal civil war in Vietnam. South Vietnam had a corrupt government. I don't like the North Vietnamese or communists, but it wasn't our matter. We shouldn't have been in there, but we got sucked in there. And we don't want to get sucked into Ukraine. We don't want Ukraine to be our new Vietnam. And as I posted on X, you see, not all, but a lot of these old boomer ex-hippies that were protesting the Vietnam War somehow want us to get in this war. This is just crazy. So we don't need a war there. You don't need if they're worried about Russia attacking their countries after they take Ukraine, well, they need to build up their defense. I'm okay with that. But it's just really crazy, this idea that they do this. So now Ukraine hasn't been handling this very well. These are pretty nasty individuals. A lot of them, they had that transgender dude that helped to kill Gonzalo Lira. And now they're making threats against Americans, or trying to call for terrorist attacks in America unless we support them. This is shitty government. And if anything, I'd rather fund Russia at this point than Ukraine. Now Trump behind the scenes, the Americans, I'm sure, are looking to replace Zelensky with someone that's more willing to actually negotiate for peace. And we got some news articles. I talked about this. Ukraine, Trump's team has met with key Ukrainian opposition leaders to discuss holding emergency elections to replace Zelensky. Regime change may be the only path to peace to avoid a global war. I have no doubt that based on what Zelensky has done recently, that the Trump administration has pretty much given up on Zelensky. They know he's unreliable. They know he's a liar. They know he doesn't want peace. He can't be trusted. And the solution is to get rid of him. And so I think that decision has already been made. And until Zelensky's gone, we are not going to give them any more weapons. We're not going to give them any more intelligence data. Now, if the French want to start a nuclear war with Russia and Paris should go up in a nuclear holocaust, well, yeah, I feel sorry for all the Africans and Muslims in Paris, but that's going to be the result. And we need to stay out of that. So that is where we are right now. The other thing that's happening, and then we'll get to other topics here, is in, let me share this. Breaking, Trump to deport Ukrainian refugees. The Trump administration plans to revoke the legal status for 240,000 Ukrainians who fled to the United States. Well, my question, if these people are all wearing the Ukrainian flag, what are they doing here in the United States? If they really love their country of Ukraine so much, shouldn't these people be back in Ukraine fighting the Russians? I don't understand this. So what, they want us to send our boys to fight the Russians, but they won't even fight for their own country? They flee to America? No, they need to get their asses kicked out. They need to go back to Ukraine. This isn't our business, and go back and fight yourself. I don't know what they're doing here. It's a crazy situation. that we even allow them here. They need to get back to Ukraine and fight the Russians if they really care about that. So that's kind of where we are on the Ukraine situation. And let me just see where everything else is. And all right, we'll get into some domestic stuff here too. Al Green, he's that representative that had that, he freaked out. He wouldn't be still during the State of the Union address. He can't control himself. And so he started to scream. And they finally removed him. And it looks like the Speaker, Mike Johnson, they're going to penalize him somehow. So let's just take a look at this here. And I don't even know what this Al Green is. He's an ugly looking dude. Again, as I said, it's very poor breeding, that's for sure. It's unfortunate. We don't really need people look like this even in the United States. Maybe this is what I would see in some shady Tunisian bazaar, where they're dealing opium or something. It doesn't need to be in the House of Representatives here.
Punishment in the well of the House take place, or is that still forthcoming?
Yeah, we just did it, Bill. Sorry, I didn't know we were live.
Okay.
Lots going on here at the House. This is a really sad day for our institution. What Representative Al Green did in the midst of the president's speech as our honored guest to the chamber was disrupted. He did it intentionally, as everyone saw.
Yeah, that was the point, because again, Trump is not part of Congress. The State of the Union, the Congress invites the president, the executive, to speak concerning the state of the union of the country. You may not like what the president says. Maybe you can boo a little bit or clap or not clap. That's okay. But you don't have a right to try to shout someone down. That's not how civilized men deal with things. And I guess Al Green, he's unable to act civilized. I don't know if it's because of how he was raised or it's a genetic problem, but he doesn't belong in Congress. He'd probably be happier, again, in some back alley in Tunisia dealing opium, where he can be screaming at people and he can get in knife fights. But we don't have to deal with savages like that.
I gave him plenty of warnings, and he refused it. It was a deliberate action. It needed to be met with swift punishment. That's the tradition of this place, to maintain decorum. And so that's what we just did. The resolution passed on the House floor. There were 224 votes in favor of censuring him for that behavior. 198 Democrats voted against it. I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's weird. So are the Democrats or the Republicans, if there's a Democrat president, to start screaming and not allow him to speak or her to speak?
2 votes present. So I think we had 9 Democrats join us in this bipartisan measure that we took. And it was critically important, Bill, because we have to maintain the dignity of this place. We're the greatest deliberative body in the history of the world. There's a deep and rich tradition here, and it is violated. To our understanding and our review of history, that was the first time that any member of Congress has ever had to be removed in the middle of a presidential address, and it's shameful.
Yeah, he should be removed from Congress altogether. He should be removed from the country. I don't care if he is a citizen. He obviously is not compatible with our civilization. And again, maybe he's not possible for him to do so because genetics, or I don't know. That's not our problem, though. He needs to go elsewhere. It was a very shameful display. And I don't know how we thought. They did a polling on CNN. And again, CNN's pretty liberal. But 80% of the people on CNN, based on their polling, thought that it was a bad look. So it wasn't a good look for the Democrats. I'm not sure what they were thinking, what Al Green was thinking, that this is somehow a good look. And even the stunts that those stupid bitches did with their wearing all pink and having those gay signs, that was dumb. Made those women look silly and immature. But at least it didn't disrupt the speech. But they also look ridiculous, too. This was a good point. Democrats kneeled, eulogized, and cried for a violent criminal who died during arrest. That was George Floyd, who had fentanyl. He really died not because he couldn't breathe. Obviously, he could breathe because he was screaming out. You can't scream out if you can't breathe. He was dying of a fentanyl overdose. But it was a crazy time after COVID, and this was peak anti-whiteness DEI. and we decided to worship a black that was a thug criminal that had robbed pregnant women, was being arrested for passing counterfeit bills. The world is better because this guy's gone, but we had to make it like he's some sort of saint. And all the Democrats were taking a knee, like worshiping him like he's Jesus. And meanwhile, Laken Riley, she was killed, and everyone stood up on the Republicans, said a prayer, and the Democrats refused to. And people are asking why. Well, because Laken Riley was white. And again, the whole woke ideology is to replace white people, eventually eliminate whiteness. So if you're white, you're evil. So a white that gets killed by an illegal immigrant, too bad, too fucking bad. We can't honor that. But if you're a black thug that should die of a fentanyl overdose while being arrested, oh my God, because of that, we got to punish all white people in America. That's what they stand for. It's just simple as that. It's not that complicated, but that's what they stand for. Couple other things. It turns out domestic. You remember those astronauts we have kind of stuck in space? They're in the space station, and NASA was supposed to take them back, but they have incompetence because NASA has a lot of DEI, and they couldn't get the spaceship up there. And they wanted to bring, Elon Musk said, well, I'll bring my spaceship up there and bring him back. And the Russians send ships up there too. It's International Space Station. But the United States government under Biden refused that to happen because it would make the Biden administration and NASA look bad, that NASA had to go to the evil Elon Musk. And this was during the time that Biden regime was unhappy with Elon Musk because he was allowing people to speak free on Twitter. And again, they wanted to censor the American people. And so they were angry at Elon Musk, the Democrats. And this would make Elon Musk look good, is if he sent his ship up and take these people back home. And but that wasn't it wasn't good optics for the government, so they decided to keep them up there longer. And that spaceship, which she's, let me just show you here, she's the one here that's I think Indian or something, and she's kind of having all sorts of problems. And being in zero gravity for a long time is not really good for the body. I guess she's kind of wasting away. And so they're supposed to just be up there a few weeks. They've been up there, I don't know how many months. They're not really in danger because, again, Elon Musk can send a ship there to get them back down. But this is where they are right now. So turns out Elon Musk was actually factual that he did offer to bring him down, but because of politics, they decided not to. Of course, I guess people that think space is fake and the world isn't really round, I don't know. I don't know how to deal with those people, really. It's just, they're not serious people. But assuming you believe in reality, that's the reality of the situation there. All right. Some more stuff. This is good news. President Trump keeps coming out with good things. Mostly. There's a few things I don't like. But this one, Trump is expected to issue an executive order aimed at eliminating the Department of Education. He could sign it as soon as Thursday. And today's Thursday, so that's today. There's no reason to have this department. It's a waste of money. We didn't have this department until Jimmy Carter put it in. The reason we don't need this department is education should be done at the state level. And what do you need a Department of Education anyway? And so many people now homeschool because the schools have lost their way. They don't really teach the basics anymore. They got into this woke ideology teaching you that if you're white, you're evil, critical race theory. And you're probably trapped in the wrong body and you need a sex change, and let's celebrate sodomy and have men dressed as women lecturing little kids about homosexuality. They've gone down a weird path. So we don't need this Department of Education. The more local education is done, the better. And the parents should be involved. And what do you need a department? You should just have a basic curriculum at the state level that teaches kids how to read, mathematics, history, and so forth. try to keep all the bullshit propaganda out of it. That's all you need. So it's a department that doesn't, even in the best of times, you don't need it. But even if you think, well, okay, but let's look at the results. And since the Department of Education has been implemented, actually test scores have gone down in the United States. Now, to be fair, a lot of the reason is because the demographics have changed in the United States. We have fewer white kids, and Asians score high, and so do Jews, but Hispanics score lower, and so do blacks consistently. And there's a genetic basis for that, so they're not going to score high as a group. And because whites are fewer white kids, the test scores go down and down. It doesn't matter even if you had a good Department of Education. But still, the Department of Education is doing nothing of value. There's no reason to have it. We don't have the money to waste. I'd imagine 95% of everyone that works for the Department of Education is a Democrat. It's very similar to teachers. Not all teachers, there's some good teachers, but I think like 90% of teachers are left-wing Democrats. It needs to be purged. So I hope Trump does this. It's a long time coming. It will save a lot of money, and it is a good thing. All right, some more good news. And breaking, the IRS is drafting plans to cut as much as half of its 90-person workforce. This is very good news. Again, I don't know why they would need 90,000 people anyway, with automation and so forth. So this is good news. You remember Biden wanted to increase the IRS, so it's actually being decreased. So this is definitely a good thing. This was kind of humorous. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but it is kind of interesting. Legal theory about Biden. He was, a vegetable. And the Attorney General Andrew Bailey, he is trying to do, well, I'll read it. I am demanding the Department of Justice investigate President Biden's cognitive decline allowed unelected staff to push through radical policies without his approval. Well, we know this actually did happen. We know this from Mike Johnson, because Mike Johnson, who's now the Speaker of the House, he, in an interview, said when Biden was president, he asked Biden, why did you sign this particular bill? It's really hurting this industry. And Biden said, I didn't sign such a bill. Mike Johnson said, yeah, you did 2 days ago. And Biden, no, I didn't. And Mike Johnson said, Mr. President, you want to show you your signature? And Biden had no idea. Biden didn't really know what he was doing. And I'm not saying that lightly. They just put things in front of him and he signed it, and he would get agitated at time, but Biden didn't really understand what he was doing. So the legal argument is the executive orders that Biden did, was he able to legally sign off on it? And this is similar in the rest of life too. Let's say if you have an elderly person that has Alzheimer's, is senile, they can't sign off on a contract. Or if they do sign on a contract, they can't be held to the contract. So let's say if you have your senile grandpa, 90 years old, and signs off on they're in Vegas with their walker going down the strip. And then someone said, hey, you get a free show if you listen to our timeshare spiel. He's like, oh, I'm okay. And then he signs up for a timeshare. That contract won't be valid if you can prove that, well, grandpa, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know where he is. So he can't sign a contract. That's just, or if you have, like, if you're mentally retarded, you can't sign a contract because it's not fair. You don't understand things. Or if you're a child, you can't sign a contract. And so that's the theory that Biden, he didn't have the mental capability to sign a contract or to sign these executive orders. And that is, I think that's a good, it's interesting. It's an interesting theory. I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but it is interesting. And I got another super chat. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. I enjoy being with you every day. And just as a reminder for you people that subscribe to me on Substack, we are doing our roundtable tonight. Usually we do this Tuesday nights, but because President Trump addressed the nation in Congress. Al Green did his chimp out on Tuesday night. This week, we're going to have the roundtable on Thursday. But next week, we're going back to Tuesday. So it's just 1 week. The French woman's right. The existence of an independent, functioning Western nation is a threat to their imperium. Yeah, they do see. She's right in the sense that she sees their whole global homo initiative falling apart if Russia doesn't fall. And so in a sense, they are right. That is kind of a astute point. I do give that. That is a situation there. So yeah, definitely good point there. All right. All right, let's see here. JD Vance released this video. I thought this was pretty good. Let's take a look at this. JD Vance, what an upgrade in president from Kamala Harris or even Mike Pence. I think JD Vance has a key role in the administration. Usually vice presidents are ceremonial. They don't do much. I don't think Pence did much. But JD Vance, I think he's part of the inner circle that really influences Trump. Well, we saw that with the meeting with Zelensky. JD Vance was driving a lot of that stuff. So I do think that. All right, here's his ad he put together.
As President Trump said last night at the State of the Union, it turns out we didn't need new laws. We didn't need fancy legislation. We just needed a new president of the United States. And thank God that's exactly what we have.
Yeah, the border was secured within a day. There's illegal immigration is pretty much over in the United States. Now, we still have the problem of legal immigration, and we still have a lot of people that needed to be deported. But hey, it's just been a month. Within a month, all of illegal immigration, virtually all, has been eliminated.
This is a demonstration of a true partnership on the southern border. Border security is national security.
So now we have ICE, we have the Border Patrol, and we have Texas, and we have the Army all working together to protect our nation. I know. Not you understand why the Europeans hate Trump. How dare you protect the American people? That's not the purpose of us.
Our objective is to keep the American people safe. I'm grateful to be a part of this team that President Trump has assembled.
It is impossible to do without the men and women on the ground who are actually doing the hard work. They just want to be empowered to do their jobs. President Trump has made that possible. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for working hard on the American people's business. It's been an honor to be with you. It's been an honor to see what you do. And we're going to keep on supporting you over the next 4 years.
Yeah, and it's actually their job is getting pretty easy now because the word has gone out to the illegals that there's no reason to try to get into America anymore because you're not going to get your luxury hotel in New York City anymore. You're not going to get your free debit card. They're cracking down on you trying to get a job, and Trump doesn't want you to get free welfare, and they don't really come here because they want liberty. So they're like, well, to hell with that. We're going to stay down here where it's warmer. And if we catch you on the border, we're just going to send you out. So that word is getting out, and it's already... we're not having to catch a lot because no one's even trying anymore. So that is really good news. And I've always said, a lot of times people get blackpilled about the deportation numbers. It's not been as high as I would like, but you have to figure for every person that's deported, there's probably 5 people that self-deport because you don't want to get deported. Because if you get deported, you get arrested and you just get sent back to, let's say, Mexico with the clothes on your back. You can't take your shit that you may have accumulated here in America. You can't go back to your apartment, pack your bags, and get your clothes and furniture and all that. You just get sent back over. So if you don't want that, you're like, oh, before I get deported, I just probably should go on my own, which is smart. And if you know illegals, you need to tell them for their own good, they should go now before they get arrested. That's probably wise for them to do. So the border is secure, and that was a good thing. And some of the people we were having coming into America is like Someone with this face is not going to add to the country. I just tell you right. You could tell a lot by a face. I really do believe that. And you know, this guy, you know, he's not going to get us to Mars. He's not going to develop anything intellectually interesting. He's fat and he just causes trouble. And this is a Guatemalan Eduardo Domingo Renelho, whatever, who led a human trafficking ring of 20,000 illegals arrested in California. So this is the type of people we've been getting in, and someone like that should never be in America in the first place. It is a joke. And the Democrats, as I said, and I wrote about it, how much they have changed over the years. There was a time even in Arkansas, say like in 1965, if you were a white man, Christian, let's say rancher or something in Arkansas, you would probably vote Democrat. But the party's totally changed now. Now it's just anti-whiteness. It's promoting weird sexual degeneracy. It's anti-Christian. It's weird girl power bullshit. And the people are really cringe. So the Democrats, in order to combat President Trump, you know, they had the idea they wanted to wave the empty egg cartons, but they thought that'd be bad optics. So they all dressed in pink and they had their stupid signs. It was like a level of junior high. Well, now this is how they're going to fight Trump. They put this together. So we'll watch this. And these are actually elected officials. These aren't like e-thought horrors that we're used to. These are actually people that are supposed to have some dignity. This leads me to believe, I don't know if women should be in politics at all after watching this. There's AOC. God, that's cringe. So they're trying to act like they're tough fighters. It's just bizarre. Is this a bizarre look? I don't even know what they're thinking. They have totally gone into fantasy realm. That was an embarrassment there. And yeah, that is pretty crazy. One other thing that has been released, a lot of us have already knew this, but we're getting science. In this house, we love science, right? Here we go. New research from the University of Texas shows that all of the justification for mutilating children were lies. The shit libs they call when they castrate little boys or they cut off the breasts of little girls, they call it gender affirming surgery. It's sex change or sexual mutilation, usually by moms that are fucked up in the head that want a virtue signal. They analyzed more than 100,000 patients with gender dysphoria and looked at the outcomes of those who received surgery versus those who didn't. Depression, anxiety, and suicidal feelings and drug abuse were all significantly higher for those who received surgery compared to those who didn't. So it's harmful to have the surgery, obviously, because if you think you're a girl and you're a boy, that's obviously a mental problem. It'd be like if you think you're a dog. You don't help the person by giving in to their delusions. You got to tell them, well, you may think you're a girl, but you're a boy, you know, and we're not cutting off your dick. It's not going to make you a girl. It's just going to make you a boy without a dick. That's all it is. Or if you're a girl and you cut off your breast and you take hormones, you're just a girl that's now ugly, but you're not a boy. That should be obvious. I don't even know why I have to say that. And obviously that's going to cause a lot of mental anguish for people. And I really feel sorry for the kids because their moms went into this stupid fad. Because I think just a few years from now, people are going to look back and say, did we really take little children and sexually mutilate them because we thought they were born in the wrong body? That's crazy. I support the doctors that did this. They should be arrested, face a trial, and face a death penalty. So should the mothers, and it's almost always the mothers that did this thing. They should be arrested, and if convicted, they should face the death penalty. This is a horrific thing. We have to have no compassion for people that did this. I have compassion for the kids that have been sexually mutilated, but sexually molesting children or sexually mutilating them, which is even worse, if you can believe that, is I don't think there could be any forgiveness there, in my opinion. That's just horrific. It's the stuff out of nightmares, but this is what we've been doing. This is what we've been doing. All right, I'm going to wrap it up today for now. I've been a little over an hour. And tonight, I'm going to put it out. If you're on the Substack, we'll have our roundtable. Today's Thursday, so that means tomorrow's Friday. Friday, I do not have my show at 11 a.m. I do it in the evening at 8 p.m. It's an open call show where you can call in, ask a question on Friday nights. It's kind of how I wrap up the week before the weekend. So roundtable tonight. Tomorrow we have the show. I'll probably have a video for my Substack people tomorrow too. And then the weekend comes. Maybe on Sunday night, Night Owls. I'll have to see. That's always kind of, I work with Sasha on that. So guys, thank you so much. It's great being here. Be sure to like and subscribe and share this with your friends. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.